I still remember the way he looked at me that morning. Not like a dying man, not like someone begging for help. He looked calm, almost relieved, like the worst part of his day had already happened and he was waiting for me to fix the rest. He was sitting on the edge of the hospital bed when he said it. The last thing my husband ever said to me before I gave him my kidney.
"Don't make this harder than it already is." At the time, I thought he meant the surgery. I thought he was scared. I thought that sentence came from weakness. I was wrong. My name is Lily Harper. I'm 35 years old. And if you had told me that the man I loved would break me apart right before I saved his life, I would have laughed. Quietly, probably, because I was always the kind of woman who tried not to take up too much space. That was one of the reasons he married me, or so I believed. I made life easier. I swallowed my feelings. I forgave too quickly.
I loved too hard. When Jonathan and I first met, he made everything feel simple. He had this warm smile, this tired but charming voice, and the kind of confidence that made you feel like you were being chosen. Back then, I thought being chosen meant being cherished. 9 years later, I understood it could also mean being used. Jonathan got sick slowly at first. Fatigue, back pain, then the tests, the panic, the kidney failure. The doctor said he needed a transplant, and suddenly our entire marriage became about appointments, medications, and lists of names. His family tested. Nothing matched. His sister was scared. His mother was too emotional. And I, of course, was the one who said I'd do it. I didn't hesitate. That is the part that still hurts the most. I remember the moment I said yes. Jonathan was lying on the couch under a blanket, one hand over his stomach, pretending to be brave. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes and whispered, "You'd really do that for me?" I touched his face and told him, of course I would. And I meant it. For weeks after that, I became the person everyone expected me to be. I went to blood tests, consultations, and nutrition appointments. I drank more water, I stopped coffee, I took vitamins. I wrote down surgery dates in my phone like they were sacred. People told me I was strong. Jonathan called me his hero. But something started bothering me. It was small at first. A message he deleted too quickly. A phone call he took outside when he thought I was asleep. A name on the screen I didn't recognize. He became careful with his phone in the way guilty people do when they think love has made them invisible. I asked him once who Ava was. He didn't answer fast enough. Then he smiled and said it was somebody from work, a patient coordinator. A mistake. Nothing important. He said nothing the same way men say, "Trust me," when they really mean, "Stop asking." The night before the surgery, I found him on the balcony, staring at the city lights with a cigarette he wasn't supposed to be smoking. He looked thinner than usual, sharper around the eyes, like the disease had stripped him down to the version of himself he couldn't hide anymore. "You should be sleeping," I told him. He gave me a tired smile. "I'm not the one getting cut open tomorrow." There was something odd in the way he said it. Not fear, not gratitude. Distance. I asked him again about Ava. This time, the silence lasted long enough to hurt. He said, "You're imagining things, Lily. Please don't do this tonight." Please don't do this tonight. That sentence stayed in my head long after we went back inside. Not because it was cruel, because it sounded rehearsed. I should have stopped right there. But love makes fools out of people who are desperate to believe they're safe. The next morning, the hospital smelled like bleach and coffee and fear. Jonathan had already been wheeled in for pre-op prep. My sister had come to wait with me, but I barely heard anything she said. I was too busy watching the doors, watching nurses move, watching the clock. 40 minutes before my surgery, Jonathan's phone rang. His phone had been locked away with his things, but one of the nurses handed it to me because she thought it was mine. The screen lit up in my hand. Ava. For a second, I couldn't move. Then I answered. "I wish I could tell you that I heard a secret affair, or a plan to disappear, or some dramatic confession that made everything crystal clear. The truth was worse than that."
because the voice on the other end wasn't shocked to hear me. She sounded nervous, yes, but not surprised. "Did he tell you yet?" she asked. My throat tightened. "Tell me what?" There was a pause, a small breath, and then she said the words that split my marriage open. "He only needed you until the surgery. After that, he was going to leave." I sat down so hard my knees almost gave out. She kept talking, like she'd already decided there was no point in protecting him anymore. She had been with Jonathan for months, not because he loved her, because he had been promising her money, a future, a fresh start. He told her once the transplant was over, he'd be free. Free from me, free from the house, free from the debt, free from the life he claimed was trapping him. And the worst part, he had been telling her I was too loyal to ever leave, too loyal to ever question him, too loyal to ever see the game he was playing. By then, I wasn't even crying. I felt strangely calm, the way a person feels right before something inside them finally stops begging. I walked down the hallway to his room. Every step felt heavier than the last. Through the glass, I saw him lying there, with his eyes closed, one arm over his chest, looking almost peaceful, like a man waiting for grace he hadn't earned. When I opened the door, he looked up and smiled. That smile made me hate him. "What's wrong?" he asked. I held up his phone. His face changed immediately. It wasn't guilt first, it was fear. Then I said, very quietly, "Ava told me everything." He went pale. I watched him try to recover, try to make a story fast enough to save himself. He said she was confused. He said she was obsessed. He said I was overwhelmed and misreading things. He reached for my hand. I pulled back. That was the moment I understood something I should have known years ago. He had never loved me in the way I loved him. He loved what I gave him. My patience, my silence, my yes. And he had counted on me saying yes one last time. I leaned close enough for only him to hear me and said, "You told her I would never leave." He swallowed. I smiled for the first time that day. "Then let's see how wrong you were." I walked out. I didn't run. I didn't scream. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart in front of the nurses or the doctors or the man who'd spent years teaching me how to doubt myself. I told the surgical team I was refusing consent. I asked them to document everything. Then I called my lawyer from the parking lot with hands that were somehow steadier than my heart. Jonathan called me 14 times. I didn't answer one. By the end of the day, his world had started collapsing faster than he could control it. Ava sent screenshots. My lawyer sent a formal notice. The hospital moved him off the transplant list, pending review. His mother tried calling me. His sister texted me once with a single word: "Sorry." Jonathan left me a voicemail that night. He sounded scared. Not sorry. Scared. He said he didn't mean for it to go that far. He said he still loved me. He said he had panicked. He said I knew him better than that. But I did know him better than that. That was why I left. I didn't give him my kidney.
I gave myself back. And here's the part that still makes my chest ache when I think about it. The last thing my husband ever said before I was supposed to save his life was, "Don't make this harder than it already is." He wasn't talking about the surgery. He was talking about the lies. If this happened to you, would you have gone through with it anyway? Or would you have done exactly what I did and walked away before he could take one more thing from you?